Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And this is just a quick FAQ that's going to go into that full playlist I'll be linking to down below. So frequently asked question is, can I use the Tattler Lids for vacuum sealing? And just so you know right off the bat, no, you can't. Though Tattler Lids, these are US made. I love them. I'd highly recommend them for pressure canning and water bath canning. And anyway, they're made here in the US. They've been around since at least the 70s. And they're a two-part system. I have a video on how to use these. I'll link to in the description box down below. And I love them. I love them for canning and pressure canning. However, for vacuum sealing, no, they're not going to work well for vacuum sealing. Now, the new ones especially don't work at all. The older design, which looks almost exactly the same, there's something just a little bit different about it. That one would work, but only about half the time. So the metal lids are going to be your best. And it really doesn't matter which brand you use or how old they are, how many times they've been used for vacuum sealing. And especially if you've used them for pressure canning or water bath canning, those ones are great for vacuum sealing. So in fact, here's a lid. You can see it's a little beat up. A ball lid that I've used clearly for at least canning, if not vacuum sealing. This superb lid I've used a few times. I can tell because there's writing on it, just like this one here, writing that I didn't fully get off. Sorry about the glare. And so these are freeze-dried cherries. These are the ones I get from Mother Earth Products. They're organic. So yes, I do buy a few freeze-dried foods, but only from Mother Earth Products, only organic, and only those things that I've only just started growing or can't grow at all. So anyway, yeah, I just vacuum sealed this. I took some cherries out to flavor a apple crisp I was making and powdered them up and then vacuum sealing. So freeze-dried goods really need to be vacuum sealed and kept that way. So if you're freeze drying your own or you're buying your freeze-dried goods in bulk, once you open up that can or container, whatever it is, you're going to need to vacuum seal it again, or use another oxygen absorber if you're using Mylar bags. You're going to have to keep doing that because otherwise they will go stale. I do have this jar here that it's not vacuum sealed because I still need to powder up these peppers from my garden. That's the Chinese 5-color peppers, but I decided I'd go ahead and use this since it's already out just to demonstrate. But this right here is a ball lid. I've got some 4-jar lids in here just because they sent me a bunch for free, unsolicited. I never asked for them. But they work really great for vacuum sealing. That was the first thing I did with them because I didn't know anything about them and I knew they were made in China. So I was really skeptical about canning with them. So I thought I'd at least start with vacuum sealing, and they do great. And I have canned with them since, and they do great for that too. And then I've used Kerr lids. So any of the metal lids I've had that I've used for vacuum sealing, no problems getting them to vacuum seal unless they were so well used and bent up, or the gummy part was just getting too hard that it just wasn't getting a good seal. Then, you know, those ones end up going in the trash, but usually they get used a good number of times before that. So I wanted to do a quick demonstration. My favorite way to vacuum seal is using my brake bleeder pump, like the one I have hooked up to this chamber, which I'm going to demonstrate this real quick. And then the Food Saver tops, but they also make some great off-brand ones that are a little bit cheaper where you can get the whole kit. Though I have noticed that the Food Saver brand, to get the full kit, the white and the regular mouth, those have actually gone down in price. So you can get a pretty good deal on it, at least the last time I looked. So unlike 2020, when you either couldn't get them at all, or if you could, you know, they were like $50 to $70 for a set of them. No, it's not like that. It's like $15 to $25 in that range for a set of 2. So anyway, I use the brake bleeder pump. I've demonstrated this many times. Simply insert that tip. And by the way, I'll link to the video down below of options for vacuum sealing so you can see all the great options. And even since that video, there have been even more. But anyway, I just lay my brake bleeder pump on the counter and I pump using my whole arm so the counter gives it stability, just holding the tip firmly in place. And I just keep pumping either until the needle stops moving or until it at least gets past those numbers 415 that are right at the top, due north right there. So that right there, in fact, I thought I heard it seal. So I'm I'm sure it is well done. And then I always pick it up by the lid to make sure it's sealed. Of course, I'm still going to open this again because I still need to powder these, because I make a really yummy pepper powder out of them. This is the color it ends up being when you got all the different colors of the peppers in there. But then the other thing I wanted to mention is that when you have something like this chamber that Patrick makes, he still is making and selling these, even though we don't have our Etsy store. If you're interested in this and learning more about it, just email me at raincountryhomestead@gmail.com. I'll send you out a product list, and it's a product and ordering information, but also towards the bottom of that, there's the chambers themselves are actually in the product list as far as the prices, shipping, and all that. But if you go all the way down, you'll find much more details about the chambers, like the inner dimensions, so it'll give you an idea what size jars you can fit in there. And then he also makes the half-gallon chamber, so that's all listed in there as well. So I have a separate brake bleeder just for this one that I just constantly keep plugged into it, so I don't have to hassle with taking it off when I want to just use my food saver tops, because it is kind of a pain pulling it off of there. So I just keep it hooked up at all times. And you see it's been a little well used, a little bit scuffed up. So what I use this for is I just put these almonds that I got from Costco, these organic almonds, into this recycled green olive jar. And so that's what I use the chamber for. This also works good for any of your quart jars, pint jars, whatever will fit in there with your regular canning lids. But I just reserve its use for anything like this. So when you're doing this, you just want to put that lid on just like that. You don't want to crank it on tight. Same thing when you're sealing canning jars. You only turn the band, just like if you're using the Tattler lids, just turn it until the jar moves freely. You don't want it on any tighter than that, or you're not going to get a good vacuum seal, because it's not going to be able to remove the air from the jar if you crank it on tight. And then you just carefully put your jar. I usually kind of set it at an angle so that I can slide it down in there carefully, not so I don't break it. Put my lid on tight, tighten it down. And then you can also hook these up to other types of pumps, food saver, whatever it is. In fact, I have a picture here. My food saver doesn't work anymore, so the picture is just for demonstration purposes, but it does work with something like that. And then I'll go ahead and do this. I'll just skip through this. Okay, that takes about 30 seconds-ish, but you got to make sure your wing nuts on nice and tight. Now listen, you can hear that air coming out of there, and that is usually when I hear the jar seal, is when I go to pull that off of there. And then the jar is sealed, so I don't know if you can tell, but the little button right there, it's at the top, that is indented now. So the jar is vacuum sealed, and that's going to keep all of my nuts. I like to use the green olive jars for all my nuts. I've got walnuts, pistachios, almonds, hazelnuts, all kinds of things. I have them all, Brazil nuts. I have a lot stored in jars, like in canning jars, because I have a lot more of those. But any of these I can recycle for something else like this. This is what I use them for. And it keeps them fresh, and it also keeps anything that's a high-fat food, like a nut, it keeps it from going rancid. So all of my meats, all my cheese, all the eggs that I dehydrate and powder up, all that stuff gets vacuum sealed for long term. So I know that they're going to stay fresh and not go rancid in food storage. So anyway, that's just a quick demonstration. And again, the main question was, can you use Tattler lids? And the answer is no, most of the time you cannot. So just stick with your metal lids when it comes to that, because most likely, even if you do get your jar to seal with the Tattler lid, you might go back later and find that the seal has come undone. And I do recommend, no matter what kind of seal you're doing, leave your jars out for at least 24 hours, because if they're going to come unsealed, it's usually within that time frame that's going to happen. And that can be anything. Either the lid is too bent from using it so many times, or something embedded in the lid. There's something wrong with the rim of the jar. Maybe it's even a little bit dirty. And yeah, anything can cause it to come unsealed. So then you'll know if you need to get a new lid and so on. So I hope that answered the question, and don't forget to check out any links I'll be putting in the description box down below, including that full FAQ playlist. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.